totally infected. I tell you
that.
that.
It's just like consistency of pureed bananas.
Oh. Hey,
Whoa.
welcome to another episode of The Roll Call Room. I am one of your hosts, Nick. With me is the wonderful co-host of The Wheel of Fortune, Mark the Cop. How are you?
The number turner, yes.
Mhm.
Good morning and welcome to the Roll Call Room.
Can
We
we
say
talk-
good morning because this is the Ask Crack at Dawn when we do this.
It really is. Can we talk about Vanna White for a second?
Absolutely.
Do you really think that she deserves millions of dollars for turning letters?
You deserve whatever you're worth.
That's a good answer.
And if I could stand up there and flip numbers and some dumbass is going to pay me $1.5 million, I will certainly take it.
Yeah, I thought, aside from the gender argument of, I get paid less than this gender, okay, whatever, but saying that you're getting paid less than the actual host of the show always made me laugh. Like, it's like you didn't hear anybody from Bob Barker.
Yeah.
You turn numbers.
You mean the models that were displaying the products? Yeah,
And then a word.
Yeah, and I always thought that the whole fallacy of and I may be getting in some political here, but minimum wage. I always thought that was so stupid because my dad always told me, son, from the neck down, you're worth about $1 an hour. He said, if you want to go dig a ditch, that's what you're worth. You need to educate yourself in something. Have a skill that someone needs, and then you'll make some money. But other than that, I mean, it's just, well, I'm not getting paid as much as him. If you don't like it, switch jobs.
Yeah, go somewhere else.
There's no one compelling you to stay here. That was my shithead chief's big line there at the end of my career was, well, nobody's compelling you to stay here. I'm like, yeah. Dude, you don't understand. You don't have fucking cops now.
Yeah.
You come on. It's not like back in the day when you had 20 applications, people begging to work there. I was like, fuck it, dude. If you don't like it, leave. I'll replace you tomorrow. Those days are gone.
We got some feedback about like my angst towards my old department, and I'm making a conscious effort to speak less of them, but it's difficult because every time they come out of the car wash clean, a bird shits on their windshield.
Just do something stupid. It's like, all right, guys, we can't not talk about this. It's kind of like, the I can't breathe with the pig mask in your car. It's like, who does that, you dumb fucks?
And then it gets better is that so in the city that I used to work in, it used to be a crime for you to wear a ski mask, and then COVID happened and they couldn't enforce it. And dude, I worked the housing projects, and we used to stop people for wearing ski masks all the fucking time. Shit, we even wrote tickets for it or took them to jail.
So what was the purpose of that? So you don't go and rob someplace?
Right. I mean,
because robbers were so bad that they didn't want you wearing a ski mask, period.
Yeah, I mean, Alexandria City is so old. On the badge is a fucking pirate ship. So,
well, you're not joking.
It's literally a slave ship on their badge, which is just absolutely bonkers to me.
Yeah.
And so the chief gets up there because the housing project authority sent out an email just to the housing projects saying, hey, the police are going to start enforcing this again. Don't wear ski masks. And of course, the optics of it don't look really good because you're only sending it to one portion of the community. And this numbnut chief gets on TV and he goes, we have never arrested anybody for that.
Wrong.
We have not arrested anybody for that this year.
And wrong
and
again.
I'm like, I know me personally, I've arrested 5 or 6 people for that. And then I contact my snitches, and my snitches are like, Nick, we've arrested 3 people so far this year for that. And I'm like,
Get your facts straight, boss.
We're going to find out about this stuff. But it's just hilarious. It's just hilarious. But this episode is a part 2 to the IACP tax return thing. And I
Yes.
have to tell you, there's been a week or two since we released that one. I would say so. Over 2,000 views on YouTube, which for a couple of old guys like us, that to me that's a success. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Over, it's hard to tell what our numbers are on Spotify, because now that Spotify has taken over Anchor, they don't want to pay us anymore. So
So our numbers are really low.
Like before it was, in the 30,000-40,000 per episode, and now it's like I'll get alerts
Yeah.
for
Isn't
like
that
100.
amazing? Spotify buys it, and then suddenly there's like nothing there.
Yeah.
It's like
Somebody's
overnight we
yeah.
lost 20,000 listeners.
Somebody's got to pay Joe Rogan,
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it wasn't like Anchor was paying us a lot of money anyway. Like for
No.
50,000 listens on one episode, it was like $5. It's just basically to keep the lights
So
on.
you want to be a podcaster.
Yeah. And
That's
so,
like with the Shield Within. I just came to the conclusions like we're not going to make any money doing this, so let's just have some fun.
no, it's just it's therapy, because doing it with like doing these episodes is a form of therapy, and then when I listen to them later on in the car, it's another form of therapy, because it's like all right, it's just reaffirming everything that I already know.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I knew that episode was gonna spark some conversation, obviously, because when you look at law enforcement leadership and you look at how fucked up it is, I don't really know any other way. And we're talking about the 99.9%. Those of you that are doing it right, stop messaging us that we're lumping you in with those people.
Yeah, we're not talking to you guys. We're talking about the asshats that are the post turtles that were put into office, and the ones that had never been in a fight in their life, but they can take a test, so they got promoted. Yeah. You great chiefs, you guys are not part of this conversation.
Or here's the better thing: if you're a great chief, and I'll put this out there, if you're a great chief, stand up to the ones that aren't, and start coming on shows and start making statements about why the state of law enforcement is the way that it is. And I would venture to say the reason why you don't want to do that is because that as a chief of police, your tenure is typically 3 to 5 years, and you're thinking 5 years ahead. You want another position, and you don't want to piss off major organizations like the IACP, which is basically the godfather of chiefs of police. They determine who gets hired, and they've got their tentacles in everything. And these tax returns are just the tip of the iceberg.
Or they're busy running their department.
Right.
I got to tell you, one buddy of mine, a great guy, strong leader, hard advocate for his people. Went against the meaning the city people, not his people. So I'm saying is the council, whatever. He was talking about positions at the Chiefs Association. He says, I don't do them because I ain't got fucking time for it. He said, I'm here running my department. I'm doing what's important. He said, most people that take those positions, they either do it because they've been begging and they're like, okay, I'll take a turn at it. But, the good chiefs out there, I think the reason why, I don't know, this is going to be kind of a controversial statement. I think that either they're busy running their departments or they just it's like, stay in my lane. I'm not going to fuck with this. But I do really wish that there was a vetting or a board that would, or a committee for oversight. If an officer could file a complaint somewhere, because cities and towns act like these guys are just the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's like, it's because you have nothing to gauge it by.
Yeah.
This guy's a fucking moron. And if you compared him to other chiefs of police, you would know this guy's a fucking moron. But and that's where self-policing. That's where I'm going. I just really wish there was somewhere. It's funny, self-policing. A board, a committee. There's a complaint here. Hey, why is all these officers running out the door? Well, that's a clue.
Yeah,
you got a bad chief in position. But go ahead.
And then you there are civilian complaint review boards or
Yeah, they're a joke.
Police. My
Those
old
civilian review
agency.
boards are designed to go against the officer that was out doing his fucking
Yeah,
job in the
yeah,
street. And, compliance is the best thing where you got this dude and it doesn't matter. It's just a person, just put some whatever color on them. They're just not complying,
yeah.
and do what you're told to do, and you're not going to have a problem. And when you start fighting the guy, that's when you're going to get your ass kicked. And when did it change? Let me ask you this question.
Mhm.
You've been a cop long enough to know that, back in the day, and I hate to be melancholy like that, but when these guys would fight the police, it was kind of a badge of honor for some of them. Yeah, I spent the weekend in jail, but man, I kicked their ass. They kind of had bragging rights, and there was a little bit of respect between the criminal element and law enforcement side. And when did that change? When did it? And I really like what. Here we go. I'm going to say his name. Trump said the other day was indemnifying police officers to where they couldn't be sued. Did you see that the other day on the
Yep,
news
yep,
where that was one of
yep,
his campaign promises? I'm like, oh, that's be impossible. But it's a great idea
yep.
is to have that. Oh, dang on. What's the terminology, Nick? I got hold harmless on the mind, but that's not it. To where the city can't be sued or the officer can't be sued for effectively doing their job.
Oh, immunity.
Yeah, qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity. Yeah,
Yeah, having qualified immunity there.
had my
And
ass saved a couple of times with that.
well,
Had
but
my ass saved a couple of
yeah,
times.
and that's part of the problem right now. This whole defund the police, get rid of the qualified immunity, and blah blah blah. It's like, look, guys, if you like living in a world like out in San Francisco where you got drug addicts shitting on the street and you can't do anything with them, then live in San Francisco. But here in
Yeah,
Midwestern Ohio, we like our safe communities. Here's the we apply the fuck around and find out um, mantra is that you fuck around, you will find out.
yep,
Don't be in this neighborhood or don't be back here messing around because
yep.
we believe in law and order here in this part of the country, and I'm sure everywhere else does too. Everyone wants to be safe in their homes at night.
But what they're doing is that they're cutting the cops' balls off because
Mhm.
you could be hard on crime all day long. You could be a hard charger. You could be out there locking people up, but it's got to go to court eventually.
Yeah,
And so when you got Soros-backed DAs that are throwing
emptying our
tons
jails
of
out.
money, oh yeah, man, like you know, spending more time vigorously prosecuting cops than they do a career criminal,
Mm-hmm.
or finding justification as to why somebody's a career criminal.
Mm-hmm.
I never in a million years thought to myself that we would be doing that as a society, but it is like, you know, we're not doing. And I think the defund the police movement was successful in that sense, which is that they're not necessarily defunding anymore where they're cutting complete budgets from municipalities. What they're doing is they're making the job so unappealing
Mm-hmm.
that nobody wants to fucking do it. And
Right.
that's how you reduce the amount of cops that are on the street. Like, again, this will be the second time that I'm talking about my old agency. They posted on there.
I'm going to give you a 2-time limit on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be it, I promise. They posted was a couple of days ago a class of like over 24 people going to the police academy.
Uh-huh.
To the layman person that saw that post, to the diehard liberals that live in Alexandria City, to them, they're like, "Oh, great! Look at how many cops are going to be going to the academy, and we're going to be safe." No, let me clue you in. Why do they have that many vacancies? And then the other thing is that's them going into the academy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they
It's going
still
to be a
have to
year
pass the
or two.
academy. They still have to pass field training. And the last time my old agency posted, it was a record number of recruits going into the academy. Out of that, I think it was close to 88% of them didn't make it or
Wow.
left the department during field training or just after field training.
Right.
So the problem is that you're churning out more people and they're not staying. And the other thing is you have to look at longevity. You have to look at how many 5 to 15-year officers are still staying in the department, and they're getting, and it's, I'm no longer talking about my old agency.
That's all of them.
All across.
Yeah.
It's all across. Like now, as a 2-3 year officer, you're a veteran. You're a veteran. You're training babies. You're basically, people are coming to you and they're going, hey, you should put in for canine, or hey, you should be putting in for SWAT, or hey, you should. At 2 to 3 years, man, you don't even know where the cleanest bathroom is. Like,
yeah, don't go to Speedway. That's janky. Go to the UDF.
yeah, it's
The shit houses are clear, and you don't see where the heroin addict was wiping his needle on the toilet paper in the roller.
Yeah.
So,
So,
I want to address that real quick. We're talking about the attrition rate. You had mentioned in a couple episodes past, and I don't know if it was on The Shield Within or this one here, about how we vest, and it takes 15 years to be vested in your retirement with an agency, and it's because everything is geared around retirement. We won't hire you if you're older than 32 years of age, and you have to be here for so long. The problem is with all these cities is that they're thinking the wrong way. We're marketing to the wrong people. We just put a guy through the academy that's 45 years old. He's a great dude. He's a fitness gym owner. He's a gym owner. He's a fitness coach. And Graham, if you're listening, welcome. He just got hired at a city here in Ohio. He's doing a great job, but we're marketing to the wrong people. We should be marketing to or recruiting that 35 to 45 group and plan on working 5 to 10 years. I mean, there's companies out there right now that vest after 5 years, and you should be able to do that. I think they're so geared around the pension board. Whereas, and I had another kid that got hired on an agency. He's like, well, it really isn't what I want. I said, dude, just give it 5 years, man. Give it 2.5 years. That's 5 years or 2.5 years that you don't have to worry about having someone there, and try and cultivate and motivate these people. And again, where we lost the leadership, where we lost the mentorship, because of my former agency, once you completed field training, you're out on your own, dude. If you make a mistake, it's let's make a mountain out of every minor mistake these officers do. We had one officer, I was sitting there talking with Dan. It was just two of us working that night. It was like a Sunday night or something stupid like that. And the door opens and here this officer comes in. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? It's like your day's off. Oh, I'm so worried about, she had, they were looking for some dude, and he pulled in the driveway and dumped all of his dope and his rig out in this guy's yard and picked it up. And they put it in a traffic cone, right? Because there was just so much of it, because it's like an upside down trash can. And it was a busy night and just forgot about it. I mean, no one owned it. So someone found it in the back of the car. And of course, oh my God, there's evidence. It's unlogged. And, they found the shooter on the grassy knoll. And this person was so upset that they called and chewed her ass out that they drove up there. And this is like 3:00 in the morning. And I'm like, what? Get the fuck out of here. We got to stay. Tell me what's going on. And I took care of it. It's like, no big deal. Why are we making an issue out of this? But incidents like that, sorry, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but incidents like that, instead of just taking care of the problem and saying, hey, we can fix this. Yeah, you made a mistake, but it's no big deal. And I was talking to Dan. I said, could you mentor this officer? And he's like, absolutely. I said, I'm going to try and make some arrangements here to get her moved over here to this ship. Well, before that ever happened, that person's like, fuck it, I'm out of here, and quit.
That's,
we had spent all that time. They'd been there a year and a half. And it was just like, how the pecking order in a chicken coop, it was like everyone, if you're the top chicken, you can't peck them, but the top chicken can peck the second. Well, this person felt like they were at the bottom of the pecking order, and everyone was fucking with them. And they're like, fuck it, I'm going to leave and go somewhere where I'm happy. And the next department she went to, thrilled with her. And they're very successful right now. So my roundabout way of thinking, I apologize. We are not mentoring and guiding these people along, and I think that's part of the problem. The next thing is we need these older folks, I feel, because people that can make decisions, that have been in the game or been working for a while, and I work for whoever, doing whatever, and I'm just not fulfilled. And this is something I've always wanted to do. Give those people a shot, and if you have them for that 2.5 to 5 year to 10 years, you've got them for 2, 5, or 10 years. instead of this 30-year career. And I tell you what, would I do it again? Oh, absolutely, I would. I would have made some other decisions. I would have went to a bigger department, but with more opportunity. And I think it was somewhere in our social media we were talking about working for good chiefs versus bad chiefs, and it's really difficult for those of us who have had really great chiefs, and then a shitty one takes over.
Yeah.
Talk about
Yeah.
fuck with your life.
Yeah. And, I see it more on the corporate side. Like now that I'm out of it, at the place that I'm at now, they really, it took me a really long time. And I think we've talked about this on previous episodes. I think it took me a good 6 months to a year before I stopped worrying about that I was going to get crucified for every mistake that I made. And I attribute it to having a really, really good boss, and then a boss on top of him that's really, really good. And they understand that when you come on, you're gonna fuck up, and no matter what, you're just gonna learn from it. And I think in law enforcement, we never ever adopted that, because, and you know how you can tell an agency that doesn't adopt that when somebody leaves the department, they celebrate it. Right?
No.
Like,
yeah,
whenever somebody leaves, they go, because I'll just take
get
myself
rid of
for
that
example.
fucking guy.
Yeah. Like when I left, it was like, oh, good, he's fucking gone. Forget about the almost 20 years that I did there. Forget about all the great things. Forget about all that stuff. For them, it's like, oh, one less person to compete against for something like. Do you ever think like you ever sit back and think about that and go, man, that was my fucking life. Like that's what I wanted to be a part of. I wanted a very, very small sliver of a pizza pie, instead of turning around and setting your sights on the whole fucking pie.
Right.
You're just getting crumbs.
Yeah.
And listen, folks that are still doing it, God bless you. I think
I think
if
you
you're
very
still
much
in this business, thank you so much. I don't want, and I've gotten that feedback before where folks are like, oh, you kind of turn it into like anti-cop, like you don't want anybody to be a cop. No. I want, and it's always been this way. It's never changed from season 1, episode 1, which is I want the new officers that are thinking about going into this profession. This is what you're about to go into. The second part to that is the ones that are in it and are trapped. And when I say trapped, they got 10 years on. They're in the smack dab middle of a shit sandwich. I want them to be able to turn on the roll call room, and I want them to listen to the episodes and go, that's fucking Lieutenant Smith right there. And I know that that's the case because just before you and I clicked record on this episode, I had 2 emails at Nick at rollcallroom.com that I'm going to read.
Right.
Or Mark at rollcallroom.com with a C, not a K. And I read them. I got a message on Facebook. I got a Facebook message, which I'm not going to read the whole thing later, but I want to give a shout out to the person that sent it. There are interactions like the IAC. Let me circle back around the IACP episode that we did last time, which was part 1. This is part 2. I put a survey on there, and the survey question was, did you know the IACP took in that much money? And astoundingly, 85.7% of the people said no. And 14.2% said they did know that money was coming in. But I would venture to say that the 14% that knew that the money was coming in didn't know that it was that much money coming in. And when we put that episode out, it was very humbling, and I appreciate it to have like people like Travis Yates comment, because Travis is a big, huge critic of the IACP, more so, and he brought up some great points, which was the IACP was perpetuating shoot people in the leg mentality. And I had completely forgot about that. This is, folks, this isn't me making it up. The IACP literally
that was some years ago.
They were perpetuating while the George Floyd shit was going on and all that other stuff was going on. They were
Dude,
going to go.
you threw that spark into the hay bale. Just let's
Well,
continue your thought. My mind just went.
yeah, my ADHD too, because I got a bone to pick with Mark and Kurt from Spinning Our Gears.
Yeah,
The fall of Minneapolis, is it called the Fall of Minneapolis,
the
right?
fall of Minneapolis. Yes.
The Fall of Minneapolis came out, and I had no intentions of watching this fucking thing because
Right.
I know me. I know, like, I'm getting a point in my life. It's been 3 years. I'm getting to a point right now where I'm starting to go, not downhill like I'm dying, but I'm going downhill in the sense where I'm clicking less on police stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm not watching police videos as much or at
Right.
all. There are certain things that I'm getting to a point where I'm just like, I don't want
You're
to
like
get
a retired hooker. You're
right,
just getting out of the life, right?
yeah, you know, I look at it and I'm like, "Bah," you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to watch.
So I
Yeah.
wasn't going to watch it, and not to give away anything is that we're working on something behind the scenes that's going to require all of us to watch this thing.
Hmm.
And I'm halfway there. I haven't watched the whole thing. It's because, and I messaged you this, a lot of this stuff is not a surprise to me. A lot of
Right.
this is not, and I don't want to sound egotistical and be like, I knew that. I did know a lot of this stuff. It's not hard to believe because when you get screwed like you and I got screwed, it's not,
Yes.
this is nothing. All this is on a national scale
Hmm.
of a breakdown. And I don't want to go into details because I don't want to ruin whatever we're going to do in the future.
Right.
But I'm pissed, but I'm not pissed at both of you because I had to watch some of. I'm going to finish it, but it got to the point where like I had to stop. Like you, I had to stop watching it. I had to walk away from it because
Yeah.
this is exactly what happened to me, except for the fact that Derek is sitting in jail for the rest of his life. He
Right.
almost got murdered the other couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Derek Chauvin, who we're talking about.
Right. It all encompasses around optics. That's what it
Yep.
all encompasses around.
Yep.
And I have a very unpopular opinion that I'm going to save for whatever we're going to do because it's going to ruffle some feathers. My opinion about him and that incident.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to save it because if I say it, it'll ruin it.
Yeah, let me help you out here. I can see.
Yeah.
I can see you're in the same ADHD loop that I'm on right now. If you watch the documentary "The Fall of Minneapolis," I'm going to go ahead and give you your PTSD warning up front. If you're suffering from PTSD, you may want to take this in small bites and doses. It took me 3 times to get through it because I was so angry, and it pissed me off to where it affected me to the point to where I was spun up for a couple of days after watching it. I was angry. I was sad. I was heartbroken at the end of it. And the way the world is now, I don't believe everything I see. But like what Nick said, all that was happening, it's just like we knew that was happening, but now there's an acknowledgement that it happened, and this is the way it happened. And literally and I'll let you guys watch it. We're going to do a show on it. What I'm setting up, I'm going to go ahead and tip the hat if that's okay. We're wanting to do like a roundtable with some police professionals to get some feedback on it, and then hopefully Nick gets all the way through. Because I'll tell you what, it should have a PTSD warning. Dang on, who does Behind the Trenches or in the trenches? Starts with an R. Ricardo. Ricardo will give PTSD warnings before he plays a clip. He's like, "Look, man, this will fuck you up listening to it," and he does such a good job at that within the Trenches podcast. Shout out to them. But getting back to recruitment and all that, they've kind of created this monster, and I think that we're not marketing to the right people. And shout out to Paul Butler in his lectures says we're not marketing to the right folks. We need to be marketing to that mid-30s to mid-40s people. And I'm still a firm believer that waitresses and bartenders make the best cops, and other salespeople. You need extroverts to be in this job. Not to say that they're the only ones, but I think that the whole process needs to be reevaluated. We shouldn't have to be stuck at a city for 15 years to get vested. You should vest after 5 years. So if you want to move on, you can move on. So ICP. Number 2.
So
let's get back to what we're doing. We got down a quick rabbit hole with that one.
My head was spinning about this documentary, and I'm going to save it because I can go on and on and on.
Oh yeah,
so the IACP,
it will.
So the IACP, we did the first episode. It definitely ruffled a ton of feathers because, can I say this one more time, Mark?
Sure. Well, wait a minute. Is it about your old agency?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It could be. It could be. You do understand, and when I say you, I don't mean you, Mark. I'm giving a general preface.
Yeah.
You do understand when you search me on LinkedIn and then you click on my profile. You do understand. Let me preface. I am a premium member. I pay for LinkedIn. Okay. Because I'm always hiring people for where I work. You do understand when you click on my profile, it immediately sends me a message that somebody's checking out my profile.
Yep.
And then I can see with my eyes who you are.
I can see you.
So IACP, I can see that you hit my LinkedIn like 6 times. I can see that the executive director hit my LinkedIn. I can see that the finance person hit my LinkedIn. One, what's up? I live 25
come on the show.
I'll even give you this. I live 25 minutes. I used to be a police officer where your headquarters is. Let's meet up for coffee.
Yeah.
What are you scared of? And so this was going on. Then I got an IRS notice for an audit. I mean, just crazy shit. Just as soon as this was released, like it's mind blowing. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I would go bananas with this thing. But neither here nor there. So we released the first one, and then the LinkedIn stuff happened, and I always screenshot it and I send it to Mark, and I go,
"Yeah,
here we go." And then so the IACP reached out to us and they gave us a statement, and I want to read it to you.
Did they?
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
That was their statement.
So you even had me on that. I'm like, oh, maybe he's on this.
When you listen to this later, you're gonna fucking die laughing.
Yeah, here's the statement they gave us. It's not there.
Nothing.
And I don't think they're going to acknowledge it. I think it's going to go get down. I'm sorry.
Would you?
No, absolutely not. However, depending on the numbers, I think it does need some acknowledgement because was it not Save a Warrior, Wounded Warrior.
Wounded Warrior. Yep.
Wounded Warrior got into that bingo to where their executive committee or their executive officers were making these, and Wounded Warrior was huge. And then everybody found out, well, these fucking execs are making $300,000 and $400,000 a year. Why am I spending $15 a month to pad this guy's fucking pocketbook? That is misappropriation of money. And this is I guess what irritates me so much about this association, it is all taxpayer funded.
Yep.
Every fucking dime of it, from the so it's whatever jerk off police department in whatever city and whatever state, that's taxpayer funded. They are paying into IACP. Well, your federal dollars are going into IACP. It's just
and they're tax exempt.
And they're tax exempt. And they're a 501c3.
Right. And then so I had a couple of people reach out and they were like, "Oh, you should look at this person and you should look at this organization." And we will. I don't want to do just episodes on this association or this whatever. I don't want to just keep doing them. This one in particular, and then there's going to be a couple that are suicide prevention ones where we're going to pick apart those tax returns.
Right.
Wink, wink. Get ready.
But I think where we're going with this one here is that through our interview with Michael Segru, we realized, and we talk about the hive mentality. I feel very seriously that this is the hive.
Yeah.
I think that through natural attrition, or if that's the right word, write a policy on it. And everyone is a member of this association and they all say the same things. And because they're saying the same things, that toxicity is being embraced. And it's like, well, let's take a look at these guys, because in that interview, you got told the same thing. I got told the same thing. Segru got told the same thing. It's like, that's not happenstance. That's not coincidence. This all came out of some kind of learning. And then through our channels, we learned that, IACP says, here, you need to write a policy on it. And here's the sample. Well, isn't that great? So if you guys are kind of wanting to know the natural succession of where we are, and then Nick happened to pull the tax return up and he sent it to me, and I had to pull over. I'm like, holy cow, that's some serious money. And then we started digging more. So that's where we are now.
And it gets a little bit more, there's some gravy in part 2. So, just to recap, folks, the IACP and the tax return that we're looking at, and if you go on the YouTube video, you can see I did a great job superimposing everything that we were talking about. So there's no bullshit. There's no, where's the proof? The proof is all there.
Yeah.
They're taking in total revenue last year. I'm sorry, in 2020's tax return, because 2021, they're taking in $30 million. $30
That's
million.
a piece of change.
Yeah, and the funny part is that of the $30 million, what they're doing is they're claiming after they pay all of their bills and all of this other stuff that they're only making $33,000 at the end, and that's bullshit. I mean, that's just bullshit. And
so what are they doing with the 33 grand?
Well, and it breaks it down. We're going to go into
some comps out there. That's half their year's salary.
Well,
I tell you what they're not doing. I tell you, they're not advocating for no cost to the member mental health services. I tell you, that's not happening. I don't know of anybody that's doing that. That's all absolutely transitional. And I'll keep beating this drum until it happens. Well, if you're going to put us in this job and you're going to fuck our brains up, you need to give us more than transactional services. Oh, you can go pay for a therapist, but we aren't going to do it. We're not going to accept any responsibility. Oh, why? Oh, because you knew what you were getting into. Really? And if that's the case, why do you have dental and vision on my health insurance policy?
Yeah, and when you're paying your executive director total compensation $650,000, and your deputy director you're paying $360,000 a year. I mean,
where do I get that job?
It's sickening.
They should hire you and I.
Yeah. Well, that's not happening. So I want to get into everybody knows that every year the IACP puts on this international conference. They usually pick a really nice area, and that's where they go. And a lot of companies, they have a convention. They have a convention center typically, and they have booths, and you have to rent the booths, and it's really an opportunity for big companies, like Axion and all these other different companies. It gives them a chance to highlight their newest, greatest product. And then these chiefs, they walk around and, they got their little lanyards on with this big fucking sign that looks like a fucking cowbell. And, they walk around with a big fucking heart on because they're like, oh, I would love to have this drone that also jerks me off. Like, it's just stupid shit.
It's a trade show. In other words,
it is. Yeah. So this trade show, this is what's going to make you laugh. We were during COVID, right? So
Yeah.
COVID happened and nothing was going on. Nothing. You couldn't rent a convention center. You couldn't have conferences. You couldn't do anything because of fake COVID. I'm sorry,
Right.
because of COVID. And so the only thing that you were allowed to do was you were allowed to set up big things to get these bullshit shots. I'm sorry, get COVID shots.
Right.
And then you were only allowed to go to social events that Democrats put on. So
not that we're a political show, but go ahead.
no, not at all. Not at all.
But you're not wrong.
I'm not. So in 2020, the IACP, they didn't have a conference. They had a virtual conference.
Oh, okay. Right.
And so I want you, the folks that are really good detectives, kudos to you. I want you to go on page number 2, part 3, and go down to subsection 4B. The IACP for a virtual conference, and it even says on here, the IACP annual conference in fiscal year 2021 included the following events. IACP conference virtual, Officer Safety and Wellness Symposium virtual, March 2021 Technology Conference virtual, May 2021 Drug, Alcohol, and Impaired Driving Conference virtual. Now, I said virtual every time, right, Mark?
Right. Yes,
that
you did.
virtual conference cost the IAC $4.8 million to put on. $4.8 million to put on a virtual conference. Mark,
wow.
I can set up a Zoom conference call right now with over 2,000 participants for $9.99.
Well, but they're not paying you for all these awesome decorations in the back or the production value. And
$4.8 million.
yeah.
And if that doesn't like spark you to go,
what?
Where did that money really go? Because you're not paying a lights and sound. You're probably paying a sound person,
right? Production company,
but you're not having a stage made up like they normally do.
Mm-hmm.
The IACP conference, if you've ever had the chance to go, they make it like a Broadway fucking show. That's why it's so expensive.
But it's nice though.
It is in the sense if it was run the right way. Like it. As I was reading it, I see on here Officer Safety and Wellness Symposium. Man, I would have loved to have been a fucking fly on the wall for that class.
Oh, and hear them in there. Oh, and now they're wanting to do PTSD retirements. Like, just get over it.
The whole conference is about how officers should do yoga or understanding the triggers of a traumatic scene and all this other stuff, which legitimately there are issues. Officers that get involved in shootings,
right.
Officers that have had partners shot in front of them, traumatic incidences of watching children injured or dead, mass shootings all day long. I'm all for that. But I bet you they never took a mirror out and held it up and walked around the room and said, let me tell you what the number one cause of officers blowing their brains out is. And walk around with a mirror and show it to them and say, it's you. It's your inability to recognize that failure of leadership is detrimental to mental health. They don't do
well, exactly. And admin betrayal is a huge key in a lot of officers. I can tell you it was with mine. I can absolutely guarantee you it was mine. And when I came back to work after being cleared of my investigation, of course, they never cleared me. It was, there's insufficient evidence. It was funny because I was doing some book research, my own book, to where the announcement of that when I was in what other agency besides my former agency does a press release, and they've only ever done it for me when you get put on administrative leave. I believe, he says, I firmly believe there is sufficient evidence that Sergeant Basie did this. And then in his retraction, luckily, 2 of the newspapers of the 6 uh, printed the articles that there is insufficient evidence to prove. I'm like, well, that's because there was never any, you fucking assholes. But we're going to run you through the mud to begin with. But that admin betrayal, that's huge, man. That is just like coming home and finding out, your shift partner's been banging your wife. That is deep cut betrayal. That is, I was willing, when I took this job, I accepted the fact that I may not come home, and I was doing it for the betterment or the moral good of the community. And to find out that the people that I was doing that job for so easily and wholeheartedly ran me feet first through a wood chipper. That is the deepest betrayal that you'll ever feel. And then go back to work. See, and you didn't go back to work,
No.
which is good for you because you had closure there. If you go back to work after that bullshit, oh God, that's a whole new era of betrayal, looking over your back, paranoia. And then the fucking cowards, or we have or had the digital ally camera system, and there was a big fisheye camera, and because you replaced the rear view mirror, that asshat deputy chief, who's now the chief, turned my camera on in my cruiser, because up until that point, I had always put a piece of electrical tape over it. So when I came back to work, I said, "Oh, somebody picked that off." So I put it back on, and then my car partner, Sergeant Nick's, like, "No, that camera's on, bro." And I said, "What?" He said, "Oh yeah." He asked me if I put tape over it, and he said, "No, it must have been Mark." And he said, "Did you put it on?" I'm like, "Well, fuck yeah, I did." I said, "Oh, so they have the camera on now?" And he's like, "Oh yeah."
Yep.
And I said, "Why would they turn the camera on and not tell you?" Because they're looking for something. Again, admin betrayal and IACP, you need to be talking to your people about admin betrayal. And this is another layer of why you're having recruitment problems. Okay. You need to support your people. You need to be mentors. You need to be there for them when they're hurting, because I can tell you what, at the end of the day, we do this job for your buddy. You do this job to support one another, the family unit, the thin blue line. If you're going to maintain this, if you're the one that's eroding it, then this is the number one reason why. I can handle a guy on the street, really, and when I was, toe to toe with this street thug up in, at Circle K, I knew the terms. Okay. I didn't know the terms of being ambushed from the rear. And that's what's happening with these agencies, with these toxic leaders, because the one thing you can count on when you realize that your buddy's betrayed you, or your significant other has stepped out, is that in my world, I had that supportive administration. And even when you fucked up, my old boss is like, "Hey man, you're going to take a punch in the face on this, but you're a good officer, and I don't want this to ruin everything. Just take here's your punishment. This is going to be over and done with, and then we're going to move on." And like my old boss used to say, he says, "You have to forgive quick. Have a good memory, but you don't hold this over the guy's head forever." And this mentality of this admin betrayal, this is a huge part of officer suicides. So to dovetail back to what you were saying, Nick, you got that officer. He's there 10 years. He's got some burnout going on. He's got some PTSD going on, and now the one thing you thought you could rely on has betrayed you.
Yeah.
Fuck it. How many cops are doing it on the job? And the position where you do is a big message. How many cops, the cops that kill themselves on the job, in the cruiser, at the department, that's a huge fuck you to the person that's in charge. And that person, IACP, if you're having a rash of officers killing themselves on the job, at the job, that department, they're talking about those consent decrees. Yeah, fuck those. You people need to send a crew in there and start interviewing the officers to see what's going on at that agency.
Yeah.
And I'm done with my rant.
No, you're good. And,
whoa, you're suddenly really loud. What happened?
Oh, am I?
Yeah, you're like extremely loud all of a sudden. Are you redlining?
How about now?
Yeah, you're better. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when I look at these tax returns, when you're putting on a virtual conference and you're spending that kind of money, and then you look at their tax return further down, and they brought in $2.5 million in revenue from spending that much money. It's odd behavior. It's in the sense of, like, if you did that on your personal tax returns, you'd be smack
audited.
dab in the middle of audit. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it I think we talked about it in one, but I just want to give you a couple of ideas here. So when you break down the independent contractors for that virtual event, they have presentation services they paid $763,000 for. Audio visual, they spent $665,000 on. They paid the city of Baton Rouge Police Department $607,000. The University of Pennsylvania.
Wait a minute. They paid Baton Rouge that much money because that's where they were going to have the conference at, even though it's all virtual?
Either that, or this is a carryover from the year before when they actually had it in Baton Rouge.
Oh.
But I question where the $600,000, why they're paying them $600,000. Could be detail officers, could be overtime, could be payoff. Yeah. I don't know. But then they pay. Then they pay the Rapid City Police Department $372,000. Like,
South Dakota.
By the way, Rapid City, is that? Or is South Dakota? I don't know. Yeah, it's South Dakota. Yeah, you're right. It's 300 Kansas City Street, Rapid City, South Dakota.
Yeah, how the hell do you get from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, up to South Dakota?
Well, I don't want to start any beef, but if I was Rapid City, I'd fucking go knocking on IACP's door.
Yeah. Why did we get that much?
Yeah. Like, hey, are you cutting us a check for the $235,000 that you owe us? Or?
Right. Yeah, we had snow removal fees in there in South Dakota. So.
Yeah, and you know, like, then you look further down, and $16.9 million in government grants. Like, they're cleaning house on earmark things that they're just really, really rolling in money. Like, and the reason why I bring up this tax return is that the average income for a brand new officer in the United States is $35,000.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that, $35,000, and this guy who's the executive director is making $650,000, and he's shaping what your leadership is doing. And when I say shaping, they're not shaping; they're dictating what they can and cannot do. They're in consent decrees now. Like, the DOJ immediately goes to the IACP or tells the department. I have to laugh because it was in the news that there's a municipality. I can't remember where it is.
I think it's in Arizona.
Yeah, I was going to say Arizona, that they're being Phoenix? Forced to do it. They're being forced to do it.
And their administration's like, fuck you, we're not doing this.
Fuck you,
we're not consenting to your decree. Yeah.
Good for you.
Sorry, rabbit hole a moment. Yates was like, every administration should fight having the feds here. Every one of them should throw them out. Yep. And this not consenting to this, because it does not fix anything. All it does is it costs your citizens millions of dollars. Nothing gets fixed. As a matter of fact, it all gets more fucked up.
Yeah, and it's, you know, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to me if I don't do this consent decree?
Yeah, they have no authority over him. Yeah, exactly.
I got another little ditty here. You know, this might be a little nitpicky, and I really don't care. An organization that was pretty much virtual during this tax return spent $1.4 million on office supplies. That's a lot of staples. That's a lot of staples. That's a lot of paper clips. And I'm by no means an eco person. Like, I don't recycle, which is terrible. But I do drive an electric car. So I would I would venture to say you need to start, if you're spending $1.4 million, maybe you should start gearing towards paperless, and save some cheddar. And what's funny is you spend more on office supplies than you did on personal development for your own people. $55,000 all that year for professional development for your people. You're spending 1.4 in office supplies. If you took 1 million of that 1.4 and actually had a true wellness program developed, and you actually employed people like Mark and I and Segru and Yates and really heavy hitters that are respected in law enforcement, mental health, and in the subject, you'd have a meaningful program. And they won't. They will never do that. They're too busy checking out our LinkedIn.
Well, I want to address the wellness thing. The city of Columbus here in Ohio has they have a center for police, fire, and EMS. And if you just need to go in and unwind and deprogram for a minute, they have counselors there. And I think this thing is staffed 24 hours a day. The city of Columbus is on the cutting edge of mental health. Now, I will say that I feel that, and this was validated by Shannon from Windmill Wellness down in Texas, is that Ohio still has a lot of work to do. But the good thing for our friends in Texas, shout out Lieutenant Jason, that Texas is on top of it there with their mental health. But again, it's transactional. Our mental health services for first responders should be no cost to the member. And IACP, I'm not hearing you saying that, because when the cities go in and negotiate their health care, okay, you're talking about dental, you're talking about vision, you're talking about whatever other services, but you're not talking about mental health services. If you're a police officer, if you're a firefighter, you're an EMT, if you have your own dispatch, all those people should have those services on their wellness program, on their health program, to where it's no cost to the member. If you want us to come in, you want us to do the job, let's keep the head straight. And I want to address one other thing we talked about. When you have members or officers that are struggling, what's the first thing the department wants to do?
Put them on leave.
Yeah, get them out the fucking door.
Yeah,
that trend of here, you got this 15-year veteran, and we've spent tens of thousands of dollars on this guy or gal training them. Yeah, they're in a bad spot right now. They've crawled in the bottle, whatever addiction that's hijacked them. Oh no, let's not fix them. Let's fire them.
Yeah,
what
but
the hell?
The thing is what that ideology is that there are always people coming in behind them. Like, that's always been the ideology is that we'll get rid of them. But now that's coming to a close also. Like,
yes,
you're scraping the bottom, like literally the bottom of the barrel right now. Like, in the job that I'm in right now, I still have the pleasure of having my toe still in law enforcement. And I talk to these newer officers, like under 2 years. And I got to tell you, as a former sergeant, it scares the shit out of me. It scares the shit out of me that a lot of these, and I'm going to say it. I mean, I'm not an old dude like you, but like, these kids, they scare the shit out of me, because I am concerned for my kids when they're driving, because you have a lot of uneducated, hothead folks out there. And I think we're not going in the direction that we should be going, especially after coming out of the defund the police movement. I think it's a matter of time, and this is going to be a staple in history. This particular statement that I'm going to make, and then we can reference it later on, which is that I think it's a matter of time before we have another major incident within law enforcement that sparks a revolution that's going to set us back by another 5 years. It's a matter of time. Dude, it's a matter of time.
I'm
It's a
not
matter of
doubting you.
time.
I just hope it doesn't happen. I think
Oh, I hope it doesn't either.
I think the pendulum is starting to swing back. I think conservative ideology is starting to take hold again. I think that those of us that sit around and watch this stupid shit on the news every night finally fed up with it enough. It's to the point to where these people are like, look, we're paying you people for security. We're paying you
Mhm.
people a lot of money. Do your fucking job. And that's the
Yeah.
problem is that you get these cowards in the jobs, just like the coward that used to run my former agency. He would lay in bed at night that I was being told because he was so worried about what would happen overnight. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, if you're worrying about your job that bad, you get
You
out.
got to get out.
Which he
You got
did
to
the
get out.
right thing as he retired, thank God. That moron finally left the job, but it was good because you need to be that steady hand on the helm in the storm. Because when you're a chief of police, you're always in the storm. You have to be all things to all people. And for the good chiefs out there, thank you for doing what you're doing and mentor the guy underneath you. Now we got the dude that's in there now that has a stranglehold on the department. No one knows one another's job. My former boss, everyone knew everyone else's job, and he trained the next guy to come up.
Yeah.
But the next guy to come up, stop that, because if you're a leader, you train one above you and one below you, because we're only there for a temporary amount of time. The department's been there for 100 years, but I'm only there for 20. And that's
Successional
the
training.
yeah, exactly. And the good departments that are successful and have happy people that are productive, and you always have an asshole in there somewhere. It doesn't matter where it's at. But
Mhm.
a good leader will put that asshole out the pasture. So what I'm saying is that, we're on the roll call room, we're exposing where the problems are. We're showing you guys where the problems are. What are you going to do, IACP, to say, hey, why don't you have a policy on your wellness program? Why aren't you telling the chiefs to go back to your cities and start having mental health services as part of your health and welfare and part of your insurance that you're giving? Because that's a benefit of being a government employee. You get that paid for. Not 1 or 2 visits a year. It's as many as they need.
Yeah.
And having those healthcare professionals that are able to deal with the first responder. We don't see that in there, are we? Are we seeing that in their agenda there at IACP? Is that let's have this real hard talk about mental health services and recruiting and where we're doing things like that. I see a lot of fluff.
A
Where this
lot.
guy with this huge degree and he's got a doctorate in blah 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 blah. Well, good. I'm glad you're a great student, and you haven't been in a bloody knuckled street fight in ever.
Yeah.
When was the last time you went screaming into a bar fight or, went to an act of domestic to where you're duking it out not only with one half, now you're fighting two of them. Most
Yeah.
of those guys have never been there. And by the way, to our midnight cruiser listening, thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Midnight Road Dogs. I mean, you and I have spoke about this, I think, on the show, and then when we talk on the phone, and I remember this as a sergeant running roll calls. We would get notification from our commander, hey, so-and-so is going to be coming in and coming to talk to your crew. And the first thing you do, you're like, fuck me, man, because this is going to suck the fucking morale out of the room. And I already have a hard time getting these guys to fucking run out of the room. And I prided myself, like as a sergeant, when I ran roll call, I always tried to make it a fun environment. Like I always tried to send them out. Hill Street Blues was a huge show that I loved watching.
Oh, loved it. Hey, be careful out there.
And I always did that at the end. It was an homage to him, and I always tried to make it fun. I had this one dickhead captain that used to come in all the time. He was my sergeant when I was an officer. He was a lieutenant when I was a sergeant, and then he became a captain. And he was just a fucking weasel. He was a punk bitch. Like he just, like even when he was a cop, he was afraid of his own fucking shadow.
Right.
And he would come in, and he would be that guy. Like we're just about done with roll call, and he would go, "Hey, everybody see that video in Vegas where that officer got dragged out of their car and beaten to a fucking bloody pulp and killed? We're going to watch the video right now." And I would look at him and go, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like,
yeah, we should have talked about this first.
yeah. But
we got calls holding. We got to go.
I went on a tangent, but we would get notification somebody was coming to roll call to talk, and it was always somebody that was from the academia world. PhD, Dr. So-and-so coming to talk to us about mental health or about wellness. And and I know that if you come into a roll call or you come into a conference and your name starts with a doctor or ends with a PhD, and you never ever served a moment in that uniform,
Amen.
you have completely lost all and this is no disrespect to your degree that you got. I'm sure you're a fine therapist or whatever you do, but the thing about it is there, if you put Dr. So-and-so that's been a doctor of psychology for 15 years versus a guy like Mark or Yates or
Right.
Segru or Medlin, the captivated audience that you're going to get is because you start every single one like a Medlin, a you, a me, a Yates says, hey, I did so-and-so years on patrol and I did this, and as an audience member, your ears perk up and you go, okay, this guy's got some fucking crass. This guy's got some legit, he's been there. He knows what it's like to be out, be in a cruiser at 2 a.m. in the winter. It's freezing outside. The heat is pumping in the car. You're trying to stay awake. It's a slow night. And then all of a sudden, an alert tone goes out and it's a fucking murder. And you got to quickly switch. And then you get there and it's a dead fucking kid. And then the scene is, it's not your scene. You're not the primary. And you get to clear the scene. And then you get back in your cruiser and it's 4 o'clock in the morning, same night. It's winter. It's snowing. The heat is going. And you're trying, now the adrenaline is dumping. You're coming down and you're trying to stay awake. And then all of a sudden, as you're sitting there, a fucking car goes speeding by, acting like a fucking idiot driving. And you have to do something because you want to save that person's life. You're not being a prick because you want to fucking pull them over. And then you just saw a dead kid and you're walking up to this fucking car and you got to check yourself. You got to check the anger that you have from that fucking scene. But you want to sit there in a conference as a doctor or a PhD and turn around and tell me what it's like to be a fucking cop and not blow your brains out. But you've never experienced any of that stuff. And that's just one scene. And that's straight from something that I dealt with. Yeah. Straight from a scene. And you could relate to it. And all you Midnight Road dogs that are out there listening to this, you're saying to yourself, fuck, Nick, I've had that happen. Or dealing with the same fucking domestic over and over and over and over. And it
how many times can we arrest these two assholes?
Yeah. And then the moment you put your knuckles in that dude's fucking face because he deserves it, you're worrying about, now I'm going to get fucking fired. I did the right thing the wrong way and I'm going to get fired. And you and I talk about this offline.
Right. Go ahead. Yeah. Keep going.
We talk about this offline all the time, which is this will be the last time about my agency, I promise.
You've already had your two, so I'm going to throw a yellow card. I'm going to throw the yellow card at you. Go ahead.
Yeah. What happened to me? What happened to me? How I was pushed out, man. There were 50 other things you could have got me on. There were 50 other legitimate things, and statute of limitations is over, so you can't do anything. So go fuck yourself. But there are 50 other things that you could have. Like when I walked in that room, all 17, however many years I was there, all came to me and said, "This is it." Yeah, and none of it was illegal in the sense where it could have got me locked up. It was procedural shit that I looked at policy and I said, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I gambled. And I won that gamble all the way up until you got me on something that I shouldn't have got taken out of. But, when we're talking about mental health, IACP, what they'll do with this kind of feedback, with dissecting their tax returns, what they'll do is they'll sit there and they'll go, you know what? We do need to have a wellness and symposium about how leadership has an effect on suicide. Let's bring in Dr. So-and-so fuckface that has three books.
Right. Says someone like Shauna Springer.
Bring her in. Bring in a Travis Yates. Yeah. Or do jam team, like do Medlin, me and you, and come in and be like, listen, if you have soft feelings and you get offended really easily, we're going to take a 5-minute pause right now for you to walk out of the room.
Yeah.
And save face on yourself.
Bring Jake Clark in. Jake Clark
Yeah.
will he tends to command a room with Save a Warrior. Yeah, bring Clark in. Yeah, that would be the brutally honest. You know, they had the that should be the brutally honest tour, is that people that's talking about the very real tragedies of this. And I feel bad for the agencies that have had to endure an officer suicide.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
We're at our 1 hour mark, and before we wrap it up,
holy cow!
I know we got there that quick. I just want to say Jake from Texas, not Jake from State Farm. Where's it?
It's Jason. Is that the one you're talking about? You sent me the other
Jason
day
from Texas. Yeah, Jason,
yes.
Not Jake. Jesus, sorry, Jason. Jason from Texas. I just want to say thank you for reaching out. Pleasure getting that feedback. Folks, you can reach out to us on all of our social media. You could just hit that message button. It gets to us. I send it to Mark. You could email me at nick@rollcallroom.com. You can email Mark at MARC at rollcallroom.com. More importantly is liking and sharing. Our YouTube videos are up, so please go on YouTube. Just type in Roll Call Room Podcast. You'll see all of our videos that are there.
Hit the subscribe button.
Yes,
hit the subscribe button, please.
Subscribe. Mark, what do you got
and like
for
and
us
share?
To close this out? Yeah.
I just want to on the social media end of it there. I think that liking and sharing and when you're in roll call or you're doored up, you're talking about the show, just encourage your friends to do the same thing. We can't spread the word of actually our mission is to help save the industry, save the job. Other podcasts talk about, oh, the job's dead and blah, blah, blah. The job isn't dead. The job's going to continue on. And we want to eradicate police suicides. That's what we're started on. That's where we've started these shows on. But we can't do it if we're not communicating with one another. And
Right.
Not all management's bad. Again, this pendulum's starting to swing back. The great leaders keep doing what you're doing. Keep being a leader. Keep being courageous. We talk about books like Maxwell's 21, The Courageous Police Leader by Travis Yates, Create Your Own Light. Travis House's book, Police Mental Barricade. I was getting to it. Thank you for jumping in there. Police Mental Barricade 1 and 2, all in Nick's books. So I was going to wrap up with the best there, my friend. But it's education. It's educating one another and supporting one another. And let me tell you something. If you got a guy that's suffering, he's drinking a bunch, shoot him a fucking text. Bro, you all right? I'm just checking on you. Check on one another. Reach in, reach out. I can tell you what, when I was sitting out here at this house thinking, how am I going to blow my brains out today, or what piece of rope am I going to hang myself with? Those people at my agency that called me, despite the fact the chief told them he would fire them if they reached out to me, they're like, fuck that guy. I'm concerned about you. This is just a fucking job. Those little things mean a lot to people who are in that bad spot, and help them out and take them to breakfast. Do whatever. Reach out. We put up messages of support. So we got to take care of one another. We don't take care of one another, nobody else is. Exposing these toxic people. Be aware what admin betrayal is, and take care of you. Remember, we are people of service. That's why we do the jobs we do. But taking care of us is always the hardest thing. So remember, have that self-care. Practice the 4 F's. Family, faith, friends. You're doing your favorite activities. Hang out with people that are not cops. Because, I'm taking a class, and Mark the cop came out in class the other day, and I just shocked the fuck out of the whole room. I'm like, oh, sorry. You guys aren't ready for that yet, are you?
Yeah.
But, take care of one another. And most of all, like, share, subscribe. And all you got to do is hit the share button on your social media. If you go to our page on Facebook or the Gram or whatever else with the Roll Call Room, leave us a like or a comment. The one thing that I absolutely love, and I know Nick loves too, is hearing your feedback and getting that message from our midnight crews. And we love the day shift guys too, don't get us wrong. We love days and evenings. When I worked 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., that was probably one of my favorite shifts, was second shift, because that's where all the rookies were, and we actually got into the shit. So,
Yeah.
we love all of our guys. You're out there doing the job. It's still, to me, the greatest job ever. However, this job does come with a toll. And number one, you need to take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll preface this too is that if you're looking for, like in particular, a police mental barricade, if you just can't swing getting it, just reach out to me. I'll send you a free e-copy. It is really nothing to do with the money at all. I really, I can care less.
Exactly.
I think I reinvest it in this show, or I reinvest it in buying more ebooks. Like I buy my own ebooks and then I give them out for free. So just please reach out to me. I would much rather give you a free book and have you read it, and then afterwards kind of send me a message and say, hey, I really needed that. Because believe it or not, it's a form of therapy for me as well. It makes me feel really good that somebody has read the book and has said, wow, I can't believe I'm going through the same shit. So with that,
and if you get it and you like it, let me jump in real quick. If you get it and you like it, buy a copy and give it to another friend. That's what legacy leadership's about. Buy that book and push the knowledge on to the next.
Yeah, and if you have read it, please go on Amazon and leave some reviews. It helps to get the book even more up on the top of the list. But with that, folks, this will be our last episode before the holidays, so please be safe. And we will catch you on the next one.